The Locked On Podcast Network presents the NFL Big 3 in 30. The three biggest stories in the NFL from our local experts at the Locked On Podcast Network. We bring you the real story, why it matters, what's next, who wins the big game, and more, all in 30 minutes. The NFL Big 3 in 30 starts now with the biggest story in the NFL.
The Buffalo Bills are 3-0.
You are Locked On Bills, your daily Buffalo Bills podcast.
The Buffalo Bills defeated the Miami Dolphins 31-21 and improved to 3-0 on the season. It was a hard-fought win. The Dolphins didn't come to town and roll over. The Bills had to earn it. It was really pretty at times, and at other times it was not. But the Bills made the Dolphins pay for some critical mistakes and came away with a 10-point win. 3-0. It's a good spot to be, folks. So we'll do what we do here on these post-game reaction shows. I'll give you the things that I liked. We'll talk about the things that I didn't like. And we'll touch on what's next for the Bills and this podcast. When it comes to things that I liked, I'd like to begin with Josh Allen. 22 of 28, 213 yards, 3 passing touchdowns. Had 4 runs for 25 yards. I thought he was so sharp mentally in this game. And I thought he did a masterful job of taking what the defense gave him. I think there's going to be some frustrations out there that maybe the Bills' passing game wasn't more aggressive down the field, or that they couldn't really take advantage of a very underwhelming Dolphins secondary. But I thought Josh Allen was masterful when it came to the mental side of this game. Early on, there were some opportunities, and I thought the Bills did well to take advantage of some opportunities, but eventually the Dolphins just played soft shell zone defense, right? Like a lot of cover 2, maybe a good amount of cover 4. Point being is flooding zones, keeping a roof on top of the defense, and taking away big play opportunities down the field. And I thought Josh did a wonderful job of taking what the defense gave him, not forcing anything, staying patient, being mature. And you're watching this game play out, and if you're aware of how Miami's spacing the field and how they're playing defense, you know that the Bills would need a yards after catch play to move the ball and get the points that they needed to get out of that game with a win. And whether it was the catch and run by Dalton Kincaid, a couple of catch and runs by Dalton Kincaid, or, of course, the Khalil Shakir touchdown late to put the Bills ahead, they knew what they needed to get done. And then when Josh was needing a big completion, more down the field, thought he did a very good job of moving within the pocket, keeping his eyes down the field, and then letting guys declare themselves available in zone and taking the pitch and catch opportunities like you saw with the Elijah Moore completion late in the game. So, yeah, maybe you thought that Josh Allen would throw the ball for 1 million yards and 1 million touchdowns against the Dolphins because their defense is no good. And in some ways, that's absolutely true. But looking at how Miami played this game, I thought that Josh was really mature and made good decisions with the football. And obviously, you're talking about a Bills offense that scored 31 points and won the game by 10. I think he did the smart right thing and didn't do anything on his behalf that put Miami in a position where they could capitalize off of a Bills mistake. It was the exact opposite. The Bills capitalized off of Dolphins' mistakes. 3 really fun touchdowns. The first one to Dalton Kincaid looks like Josh was able to step up in the pocket and hit Dalton in the honey hole in a cover 2 look. Nice catch and run. Heck of a play by Josh and Dalton Kincaid. Then you get the Jackson Hawes flick, right? Josh Allen gets outside of structure to the left, and he's kind of got an opportunity to either run it in or flick it. And Rasul Douglas, I think, was the outside corner, kind of stays over top of Josh, and that opens the window for Josh to flick it for Jackson Hawes' first ever touchdown, which was a cool play. And then late in the game, you get the Khalil Shakir touchdown that, I don't know that was a high degree of difficulty throw for Josh Allen, but understanding the circumstance, getting the ball into the hands of your best yards after catch player when you know that's what you're going to need based on the defense that was presented to you. Shakir with the big catch and run, and hat tip to Dalton Kincaid and Tyrell Shavers for some big blocks on that scoring play. So Josh, 3 touchdowns, 213 yards passing, 25 yards rushing. Very efficient game. Very efficient game. I thought it was the type of game he needed to play under those circumstances. Dalton Kincaid continues to show up, 5 catches on 6 targets for 66 yards and a touchdown, and he could have had 3 touchdowns in this game. You would love for him to – it was only 1 target that he didn't get a catch on, and it was the kind of deeper throw into the back of the end zone, and that safety got his hand in there late. You'd love to see Dalton just, win that ball, but good route, good throw by Josh. Unfortunately, that one was incomplete, but 5 really good plays from Dalton in terms of passing game contributions. Some big catch and run. He made a big impact in this game. How about Elijah Moore? Had 1 rush for 11 yards, 2 catches for 30 yards, and it was all very timely, just like it was last week for Elijah Moore. His catch, it was 2nd and 16 there at the end of the game. He had the huge catch, finding a spot in zone, becoming available. Josh climbs, gets him the football, catch and run, and get a first down. I mean, you're behind the sticks, 2nd and 16. You needed a first down, get out of there with a win, and Elijah Moore was a big part of that. He's been extremely clutch. It's funny. I mean, Elijah Moore has become the player you thought Curtis Samuel was going to become. And obviously the Bills will need to sort that piece out at some point, but it's nice to see him carving out a role and it being meaningful. Even Tyrell Shavers with a couple of catches in this game that resulted in first downs. Khalil Shakir, 4 catches, 45 yards, and a touchdown. The go-ahead touchdown that the Bills needed late in the game. It's good to see that, right? See him make some clutch plays and do his yards after the catch thing. How about James Cook? 19 rushes, 108 yards, and a touchdown, 3 catches in this game. Over 100 yards from scrimmage all 3 games so far this year. Back-to-back 100-yard rushing performances, 4 touchdowns on the year. The guy just produces week after week after week after week after week after week, right? And the touchdowns, it's just unbelievable. You kind of looked at the splits of his career and, percentage of carries, team carries inside the goal, the 5 or whatever it is. And it doesn't tell a story that leads to the touchdown production that James Cook is getting, but he is continuing to produce and continuing to prove Brandon Beane right for signing him to that deal. And it looks like right now he's on pace for almost 350 touches this year. We'll see how that stabilizes or how it doesn't stabilize, but James Cook's obviously been a huge part of this offense, and he's been highly productive all 3 games to start the year. He's a star. He's a star running back. There's just no way around it. The guy's a star running back. Shout out to the tight ends. The blocking that those tight ends give this football team is really, really cool. And that 13 and 12 personnel packages that the Bills have, the 2 and 3 tight end stuff where they can run the ball, it's a lot to deal with. Think about all those extra gaps that defenses have to deal with. You have good blockers. You have a good back in Cook. You have Josh Allen and the threat of Josh Allen as a runner. There's just a lot of stress that this team can put on a defense and them stopping the run. And, James Cook's feasting, and, James Cook's, he's not just feasting off of good blocking. I mean, the guy is making plays, right? Yards after contact is there. I'm continuing to be blown away by the overall arc of James Cook from, shaky pass catching back as a rookie to focal point of one of the league's best rushing offenses and one of the most dynamic zone runners, one of the best between the tackle runners, smaller back that runs bigger with physicality. He's a dude. He is a dude.
Most people can't name all their financial accounts or even what they're worth, whether it's a 401k or properties or investments. And when you don't have the full picture, you can end up leaving money on the table. That's why there is Monarch Money. It's an all-in-one personal finance tool that brings your entire financial life together in one clean, easy-to-use interface on your laptop or your phone. Monarch does the heavy lifting for you. You can link all your accounts in minutes, see clear data visuals, get smart categorization of your spending, and finally feel in control of your money without ever touching a spreadsheet. I linked all my accounts to Monarch and immediately spotted a few subscriptions I wasn't even using. Canceling those all can save you money every month. Don't let financial opportunities slip through the cracks. Use code LOCKEDONNFL at monarchmoney.com in your browser for half off your first year. That's 50% off your first year at monarchmoney.com with code LOCKEDONNFL.
31-21 the final in Buffalo. Kyle Krabs and Jeff Scanina. One of those nights for the Dolphins. All that promise, all that hard work. You can't wait to start. You got that chip on your shoulder, ready to come out and just decimate the Buffalo Bills, guys. And I thought the Miami Dolphins, let's start here. Kyle, Jeff, and Jeff, I want to start with you on this because we're talking about a team that was really under the gun, right? At 0-2, they didn't show anything. The defense allowed scores on 12 straight possessions to start the season. The Patriots beat them, and they let Drake May do it. All kinds of things coming into this game. Fire Mike McDaniel. Tyreek Hill's not happy. The first thing that I wanted to see tonight was this team come out with some fire, with some intensity, with some focus. The fire and the intensity were great, and the focus was better.
Yeah, it sure was. I mean, just from the opening kickoff, they had a great return to set up the offense, get the offense going, and they went down, scored on their first drive, which is a huge, morale boost for that team for the situation they've gone through the last 2 weeks of not scoring early, and you're giving and 3 and outs. And I thought that it was a great way to start the game. And you just wish the defense would have came out and got a 3 and out, and then it could have been a different start for the defense. But again, when you're playing in Buffalo on a Thursday night game against a great Buffalo offense, it's kind of hard when they get the juice of the fans behind them to get a 3 and out on their first drive.
Well, and Z, I want to piggyback off of that where the first 2 weeks, the Dolphins offense blinked and they were down multiple scores, right? And I think the Bills almost did them a favor when they won the coin toss and then deferred to the second half. I've been hoping that, especially after the week 1 debacle where they just had no rhythm. And then going into the New England game, hey, we didn't run the ball a whole lot in week 1 because we got down 3 scores in the first 18 minutes. And then we were down 12-0 in the second contest. You showed some balance on that opening possession. And I know Mike McDaniel really likes the strategy of having the first possession of the second half because then I kind of know what the first 30 minutes have looked like. And it changes how I manage the start of the second half of the game. But if you'd have given up another opening possession and they'd gone down and scored on you and you were trailing right off the jump, you can't help but wonder what the play calling would have looked like because for all of that momentum that they found running the ball, it again felt tonight like they were a little intermittent on how often they were calling their run plays. They had that successful opening drive. I think they went, 3 and out each of the next 2 possessions and had 7 yards of offense or whatever it ended up being before they put together another drive at the end of the half. So, agree with you wholeheartedly as far as kind of the start to the game, the opening script I really like. They showed some more balance. There's a run game to look at here that I'm sure we're going to put under the microscope as far as the big back, the young back, Ollie Gordon, what he provided for them for some power. I like that element of what the Dolphins did on Thursday night.
Yeah, Ollie Gordon was great, man. And Jeff, to Kyle's point, right, that opening drive, 10 plays, 47 yards. It wasn't pretty by any means. It was dink dunk, and Tua didn't even go over 100 yards passing until the second half. But 10 plays, 6 runs, 4 passes. They score. They set the tone with the run game, and it really started with Eskridge on the kickoff return, guys. 54 yards to get it started on the road. Give him the short field, and you come out and you just score. You punch him in the mouth and you score, Jeff. And that, to me, set the tone for the game to where the Dolphins were able to stay in it until the end because they set the tone with that physicality early.
Oh, yeah, without a doubt. Again, as a player, when you start a game off like that with a nice big return and you set up your offense and they go down and they hard-nose it down, or they get some nice runs, guys are running hard, making their blocks. Yes, dinking, the little dink throws that he has, those are run plays basically, in that offense, So that's just another way of getting the guy out in space to make a play. And they did it and they got it down there, it just, I wish they could have backed it up with some more other points in between those two good drives, to cap off that half.
Yeah, and Kyle, the defense played better tonight, but man, they could not stop Josh Allen in that first half. At one point, he was 12 for 12 off play action, 18 of 20 overall. He's mastered that offense, mastered the play action. They have the best running game he's had in his career in Buffalo. And in typical Josh Allen fashion, he's spreading the ball all over the field. So tough job for the defense, no doubt. But with the offense setting the tone with the physicality early, the way the defense just kind of let Buffalo keep going right down the field on them, especially in the first half, that's demoralizing, and it's hard to keep up with that, especially on the road.
Yeah, I couldn't tell if I was watching the Dolphins and Bills playing an AFC matchup or like an old school Pac-12 matchup or maybe a Big 12 defensive matchup where a lot of air, right? And I think that's the thing when you get Buffalo backed up there towards the end of the game and they have that critical catch and run opportunity to really kind of blow right before the 2-minute warning there at the end of the game, kind of put the game on ice. You still see those moments, and I think that comes with brand new players in the secondary, and Jason Marshall goes down with a hamstring in this game. They got Cornell Armstrong, who was on the practice squad and was out of the league last year, is playing nickel for him. I think they really got to look at that back end and ask themselves some hard questions. I know Ifitu Melifonwu is dealing with an injury as well, but they got a young 5th-round rookie in Dante Trader, who I'm excited to get into the tape and see what he did with the coach's film, because it seemed like he was really flying around out there. Ashton Davis had a nice play in the end zone on a target to Dalton Kincaid to break up a pass. So like these little incremental victories, and nobody at 0-3 wants to talk about moral victories. And I get it, because the start of the season's been a flop. But from that perspective with the defense, you're going against a guy who historically owns you anyway. And then you're trying to mix and match your coverages. And you mentioned some of the stats and efficiencies that he had. He started 12 for 12 against zone defense as well. When the Dolphins played zone, the ball didn't hit the ground. Like, what are you going to do? And then that was that critical play that set up the first down that really iced the game, was another zone drop where everybody on defense was flying out of there, and they left the sit route right over top of the ball wide open, and it's a big catch and run.
Yeah, and even when he misses, it's because the receiver drops it or the DB breaks it up. Almost every single throw is right on the button from Josh Allen. And then you see Tua try to throw the ball down the field, which we'll get to in a little bit. But I know we're going to talk about Zach Sealer with the roughing the punter roughing the punter kicker penalty down the stretch. Excuse me, guys. Roughing the punter down the stretch, Zach Sealer. So that was a killer penalty, right? And then Tua throws the pick. And last week it was the 4th down sack, and he had the drop snap tonight as well. So we're going to get to the mistakes made by Sealer and Tua, but Mike McDaniel had this team ready to play. We can talk about, and we will get to Sealer and we will get to Tua, but Mike McDaniel had this team ready to play last night. And Jeff, I talked about it last week on the postcast, and it was one of the things that really stood out to me after last week's game. All that talk about get rid of Mike McDaniel, fire the coaching staff, they're a bunch of bums. This culture with the Dolphins that has come to be ever since Don Shula. And I remember I'm covering the team back then. I was just starting my career in Miami, and everybody wants to run Don Shula out of town. And then Jimmy Johnson's down the road in the Keys. And, we got Jimmy Johnson. We don't need the old man anymore. Jimmy didn't have a ton of success, but then you look back at the Jimmy years and you go, oh, my God, I wish we'd had the Jimmy years back right now. But every time something like this happens, the 0-2 start, and I get it. It's inexcusable, a lot of the things that were happening, Z. But Mike McDaniel had this team ready to play last week, and he had them ready to play this week. There are stupid penalties still, lack of focus, guys going downfield, things like that. But you can tell that they are not a team that is poorly coached.
The NFL season is finally here, and FanDuel is making sure you're ready for the weekend with a can't-miss offer. Right now, new customers can bet just $5. And if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. I love using FanDuel because it fits however I like to bet in the moment, whether it's a prop, whether it's a same-game parlay, or even jumping in live as the action unfolds. It's quick, easy, and the best way to add a little more energy to Sunday. So are you ready to play? Download the FanDuel app now by visiting FanDuel.com to get started. That's FanDuel.com to place your first $5 bet.
Brock Purdy at practice Thursday. Is he going to start for the San Francisco 49ers?
You are Locked On 49ers, your daily San Francisco 49ers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Well, John Lynch said on Thursday morning, Croc, that a big hurdle for Brock Purdy would be after a limited practice session on Wednesday, if he'd be able to go back-to-back days and be able to practice Thursday. And he said they'd find out a little bit later in the day. And so later in the day, Thursday, and we have found out that Brock Purdy indeed did practice on Thursday, Croc. And I was skeptical earlier on in the week. I thought Kyle Shanahan was doing his thing where he didn't want to say too much and was hoping his opponent would, be spending practice hours on multiple quarterbacks and give him a little bit of an edge. And we've seen Kyle Shanahan be coy about these things in the past and maybe, get people feeling a certain way about whether a guy was going to play or not. And then he ends up playing or ends up not playing. In this case, if Brock Purdy is practicing, Croc, he's going to play, right?
Yeah, so I guess that timeline of 2 to 5 weeks, which was weird to begin with, looks like it was a little off and it's just 1 week. Or it was, hey, Mac Jones looked kind of good. I want to quiet any random stupid talk and get out there as fast as possible. Either way, I think it's good that he's back out there. Obviously, if he's healthy, and I don't think there's any chance they rush anything with Brock Purdy. You're better off if he needs an extra week or 2 or 3 to make sure that toe is right. You give him that time. So I don't believe they're rushing it at all. But hey, man, he's healthy. You're our starting quarterback. Go lead us to another victory.
Yeah, that's the only thing. If he's good, then he's good, right? If he's not good, do not rush him back. And that could be a real big problem because, again, you don't want to see the thing that happened with Joe Burrow. And now all of a sudden you need surgery and it gets worse. And now you're out 3 months instead of 3 weeks for Brock Purdy. So I think he's trending closer to playing than not if he indeed was practicing. I want to go to Matt Barrows here, who did report on it. And, at this point of the season, the media is not really able to see exactly what practices look like and what players are doing beyond the early portion of practice. But he was practicing and seemed to be doing slightly more than he did the day before, according to Matt Barrows, when Brock Purdy was limited. A few more injury notes here for the San Francisco 49ers. Trent Williams, who's not been doing a lot of practicing himself, dealing with a knee injury, warmed up on a side field in uniform. So possibly join practice a little bit later. This is the early portion, again, that the media is able to see. Spencer Burford was on an exercise bike when practice began. Austin Pleasance, the other offensive tackle, likely will be in uniform Sunday for the first time this year if Spencer Burford cannot go. And the 49ers did do some roster movement at offensive tackle just to prepare for Spencer Burford being out. And Trent Williams obviously already injured as well. So he might be, if something happens to Trent Williams during the game, you could already be on left tackle number 3 potentially. So that's where the 49ers are there. Fullback Kyle Juszczyk, who was injured in the last game, week 2, and Saran Neal were in blue no contact jerseys, but they were practicing and they were progressing through concussion protocol. And no practice yet for Jawan Jennings with the shoulder and ankle injuries this week. And it's not clear. I don't know if the ankle is related to the calf he was dealing with before or not, or it's just a completely new injury. But he was working with trainers on the side. Yetur Gross-Matos was on hand at practice, and Nick Bosa, Christian McCaffrey practicing after their days of rest on Wednesday. So that is the practice report right now, which is mostly good news for the San Francisco 49ers, all things considered, especially with the way things went over the course of the summer. And really, obviously, the big one is Brock Purdy. And again, don't rush him back. If there is no possibility of him injuring that turf toe worse, then that's interesting. Playing on turf last week too, right? It's called turf toe for a reason. I think Joe Burrow and Brock Purdy both got turf toe on turf. Can we get rid of turf, guys? Can we stop with the turf? We can have grass everywhere we need it. Let's play on grass. Can we go? Can we start there, please? But yeah, Brock Purdy looking like more going to play.
Yeah, at lower levels, the kids hate playing on grass because it's not good grass. It's definitely not that NFL grass. Like the NFL grass is as thin as a sheet of glass. I mean, it's thin, it's fast, it's well maintained. So a lot of players actually prefer to play on grass field. As opposed to high school, my kids, we practiced on the grass sometimes because there's the girls flag football going on. So sometimes when they're playing games in the stadium, we practice on this grass field. One of my players got up and was like, "Hey guys, we're out here on the grass. We have to battle through adversity." They look at playing on grass or practicing on grass as having to go through some adversity. So that's how much they hate it. But NFL, I think those players all prefer to play on grass.
You need a better grounds crew, man. I'd love playing on grass. It's soft. It's more fun to be tackled on grass. You can get a little bit muddy. I like bad weather football when I was playing. In fact, we'd get together every time it rained. It didn't rain a lot in Visalia, California. So when it did, we were like, let's go. We're going to the field and we're going to get muddy and we're going to play tackle football, without pads. We're just going to get together and have fun. You play faster though on turf. And so when you got those young ligaments, those young joints, you probably feel fast and you like the traction that you get on that turf.
Yeah. I think the big thing is just kind of injuries that occur on turf, which is just more than what happens on natural grass. And the 49ers, if you guys remember, you go back to 2014, 2015, the 49ers grass was a huge issue, even leading up to the Super Bowl. Now, I feel like Jet York was trying to when I say Super Bowl, 49ers weren't playing in the Super Bowl. The Broncos and the Carolina Panthers were playing in the Super Bowl. But I feel like Jet York was trying everything possible to get that grass together. And I don't know if it's something with the soil there in the South Bay or what, but it took a while for them to get it right. I have not heard complaints about the grass in recent years.
Yeah, I remember that. They could not figure it out. And somewhere along the way, they got that right. And they got it all figured out with their the new grass over there at Levi's Stadium. So Brock,
did they get it right, or did people just find something different to complain about?
That's possibly it. They're like, you know what? The sun's more annoying than the grass. Let's talk about the sun. It's too sunshiny in the South Bay, and there's no.
I think the whole one, you had the Blaine Gabbert, Colin Kaepernick quarterback battle. Then you had the Colin Kaepernick taking the knee, and I think all of that distracted the fan base and took their attention off of the real issue, which was the grass field and guys not being able to keep their footing.
That's what it was. Jed York's like, oh, thank goodness we've got all these other controversies, so now I don't talk about my grass field anymore. You feel good about Mac Jones if he has to play, though. I think that was one of the big lessons from week 2 is just knowing, like, look, and the 49ers probably feeling, and Brock Purdy might feel a little bit of pressure to be like, look, I don't want my backup quarterback to string too many of these great games together and then get everybody talking too much, right? This is my team. If I'm good, I'm going to go out there and play. So make sure that you save him from himself and make sure that there's not more damage done. But if Brock Purdy's good, then he's good and he's going to play in this game. And if not, then I think you still feel okay about your chances to win some games while he's out with the backup quarterback in Mac Jones, who looked for the most part very sharp in week 2.
A big thing that people pointed to was just the O-line was better. So that's why we saw the improved play from Mac Jones, maybe, not as many turnover worthy throws and not turning the ball over at all, at least through the air. Obviously he fumbled, but so that's a big thing. A key to victory. All right. And I know we'll get to it on the next segment, but 49ers offensive line, can they play as well as they did last game? That's going to be a big one.
Yeah, particularly with the pass protection. They've been a better run blocking than pass blocking line under Kyle Shanahan for the most part. And, clearly that's what he identifies in the movement and the style of players that he brings in and get the ball out quick and do other things to help out the pass protection side of things on the offensive line. But the pass protection held up quite nice in week 2 for the San Francisco 49ers against the New Orleans Saints. Can they keep that going? And what's been good is the run defense, and specifically some rookies looking better and better and getting their footing, stacking days.